Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we host a show about hosts. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going so great. Super excited about today's episode because we have an amazing guest with us.
From the gayest episode ever, Drew Mackie is here. Drew, how's it going?
It's great. It's so weird to hear you guys do that intro live. And also, I don't mean to like give anything away, but I listen to you guys on like 1.5 speaks. That's why I listen to everyone. And it's also weird to be like, oh, they're saying it normal. That's that's how it really sounds.
Do we need to retake it?
No.
On this episode.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, greatly appreciate it. I feel like we have a fun topic today, but I feel like it's a sideways topic, right? Like it's one that we have to approach with like maybe more outside the box thinking than normal.
I think that's true.
But before we get into that, I just want to point people to our Patreon, patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society, where you can support us if you like with money. Of course, you're under no obligation to do so. But if you support us at the 8-bit or 16-bit levels, you can check out our once-a-month episodes of miniseries that we're recording. We just finished up the NCS Detective Club, where we watch the great detective shows of television, and we are currently making our way through NCS Goes Broadway. By this point, we will have just put out our episode about Les Mis.
That's right.
And there'll be another one coming up in about a month.
That's right. And also, in about a month, if you are a member of the Patreon, you'll be able to vote on what our next mini-series should be.
We think it'll be in about a month.
We think it'll be in about a month.
Nailed down.
We're
exactly
hedging our bets a little bit.
And then also, if you would like to join the Discord, which is where a bunch of listeners of the show are hanging out and talking about Nintendo stuff basically all the time and having fun, cool, interesting conversations, you can email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com, and we will send you an invitation. Drew, before we get into the topic where we are talking about hosts, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about Gayest Episode Ever. I just listened to your episode about NoHo Hank on Barry, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
Well, thank you for listening to that. So Gayest Episode Ever is sort of what NCS Detective Club's detective show season is, except we're mostly just talking about sitcoms. Barry was our exception. We really loved Barry a lot, and we feel like more people should have watched Barry. And there's just so much interesting and really funny stuff in that show that made the podcast. But like, if you're listening and you have a favorite sitcom, we've probably talked about it because it's like 200 episodes in, and we've covered most of the sitcoms that are there. Yeah.
Do you think you have a supernatural eye for which is the gayest episode of a sitcom?
So we came up with the name, and we realized there was not a podcast called that already, so we just picked that. But there is no metric for determining the gayest. So like we've not done a good job executing this concept at all. But I don't necessarily love ranking things as much as like picking one episode and being like, this is what it did good. This is what maybe it did so good, and this is why it's worth your time.
Like I said, love the conversation about NoHo Hank. He's one of the. I keep like revising in my head a list of like my favorite characters of the 21st century, and it's always him and Dylan Maxwell from American Vandal. That I'm like, those two are locked, and then I don't know how the rest of it fills in. Maybe Ahsoka Tano's in there. I don't know. In any event, so check that out. And then, Drew, you also have a website.
I do. I have a website that is maybe a little bit more geared towards people who listen to this podcast. It is called Thrilling Tales of Old Video Games, and I write about old video games. And I like to dig stuff up that I feel like no one else cares about. But no matter what I write about, there's someone that cares deeply about it and will contact me about it. Most recent thing I think I've done is, do you guys know Clue Clue Land?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I did a whole thing on the gender of that lead character, who in America is the first female main character in a Nintendo game.
Whoa.
But in Japan, she is not female. So someone at Nintendo of America had made the choice to be like, this character who's just like a red circle with a face.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
nothing about it that indicates any gender. They're like, this is a girl. We're naming her Bubbles. In Japan, no gender, named Gloopy.
Named Loopy?
Gloopy.
Gloopy. Ugh.
Gloopy.
I hate that.
So clearly, they're like, we can do better than Gloopy, but they made this character a girl, and ever since, Nintendo of America officially recognizes Bubbles as a girl.
Oh.
Well, great. I love that.
Yeah, I love
and-
that too.
And you will frequently, if you are in the Discord, see Drew sharing links to his stuff there too, because again, just the kind of stuff that we like talking about. So, all right, let's get into our topic. Let's discuss our favorite Nintendo hosts. And we do this because we are on or around the 1 year anniversary of
Yeah,
the
I think
release
we're
of
gonna
Splatoon
nail it
3.
pretty close.
And Splatoon, as a series, I feel like, especially among Nintendo series, is unique for putting characters sort of like on the box, or like characters that are sort of front and center, who are hosts of the event that's happening, right? We have these celebrity personas in the form of like the Squid Sisters, or, in the new game, what is their name?
Shiver.
Right, Shiver,
Fry,
Fry, and
Big
Big
Man.
I was thinking, what's the name of the? And look, we play Splatoon 3 at least a little bit. What's the name of the group?
It's not Deep Cut. Deep Cut?
I think it is Deep.
Okay, sure, Deep
Okay.
Cut. There we go. Mark's looking it
I
up
am
just,
looking
to,
it
just
up.
to check. But the just the fact that they have this like host thing baked in, it's a little bit fascinating, right? Like I can't think of another game series except for maybe the Dark Anthology. Do you know the Dark Pictures
No.
Anthology? Do you know these games? It's they're narrative games by the studio that did Until Dawn, and there is like a host who like lives in a library. I don't know if he lives there, but he he presents everything.
He could just,
from
he
this,
could just
like-
work there.
he could just work there. Who like is sort of the narrator for all of these stories, and the stories are like unconnected, but he sort of acts. He's like the crypt keeper, basically, but not
Got
dead.
it.
And
Right,
with
okay.
fewer puns.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And
how
lives in a library.
and lives in right? Does the crypt keeper not live in a library?
He lives in the crypt.
There we go. At the very least, he keeps it. He works there for sure.
Right.
But I mean, does he live anywhere? I don't. He might not live.
He's not alive.
He's
I'd like
not
to think
alive.
that like he lives somewhere in LA and like drives to work every day, like commutes with
Oh
everyone
yeah, he
else.
has to commute for sure.
But before we go into like our favorite Nintendo hosts, I was wondering if we could just like spend a little time talking about what qualities we like in hosts. What makes a good host? Is there? Do you have like a go-to host in real life that you're like, this is my like quintessential my? When I think of host, I think of this person.
So, during like when we were locked down at the beginning of 2020, my husband and I watched so much Amazing Race, and so Phil, man, and what now? I really just know him by Phil. He has a last name. I don't know what it is, but he's great. He's like he's the perfect like he's encouraging to the teams, but he can be like a little sassy when he needs to
Yeah.
be. But then more recently, I have fallen into a deep Survivor hole where I'm just like watching all of the seasons of Survivor.
Yeah.
And I think Jeff Probst generally pretty good at his job.
Pretty good host.
Yeah.
What do you think? Did you have like? Can you pick out? And it's okay if the answer is no.
Uh-huh.
But like a quality that like makes Probst a good host. Besides his name almost rhymes with host.
Oh, that's good.
I think that anybody who has to provide running commentary on anything that's happening live, like in like Jeff Probst or like a sports commentator or something, the ability to talk that much just nonstop is actually super impressive because it's really hard.
Yeah.
Given our line of work or sidelines of work, that it is weird to realize that person's better at talking than I am. Like they're professionally good at. That's why they're on camera doing it for like an entire hour straight without edits.
And they make it look easy, and it's not. No. It's really not.
And especially sportscasters, like an hour would be a short game, right? Like if you're a baseball, and sometimes they'll do double headers. They'll be on air for like 6 hours in a day.
They must be just like dead afterwards. I just can't imagine. Like
Yeah.
an hour podcast, and like I'm like I need a nap.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Drew, do you have any like go-to hosts that you think of as
So-
like
Two. One we have to say because he just passed away based on the recording date is Bob Barker.
Yep.
Who was entertaining for like generations of people watching Price is Right, and I think it's probably my gold standard for what game show host is. And I think the interesting thing about him, good with people, very suave, can kind of be a jerk sometimes to people, and like you still like him even when he's just being like he's like being a little condescending maybe or patronizing to some of the people that are on there. So if you can do that and still make me like you, then you're probably doing a good job.
it's a little bit the Alex Trebek thing, right? Where like
Actually, yeah, he's
that he
kind of a
could be a
jerk.
little bit of a jerk, or at least like where you could tell he like didn't totally connect with people and was just like, it doesn't matter anyway. You're not going to be back tomorrow. So Bob Barker,
Padma Lakshmi.
yeah,
I love
what
Padma
a
Lakshmi.
great call.
I'm so sad she's leaving. I think Kristen is like the contestant that's taking over for her. She'll be very good. Padma gives attitude and sometimes acts like she does not really care about people's feelings. Sometimes will connect with people, and it's a mix of sympathy and a lack of sympathy. Whereas like sometimes a withholding woman can be very enticing to me.
Yes.
Where it's like, oh, she doesn't like me. I want to work really hard to like please her. And you can watch contestants do that. So I think she's very good. I think she's more of a squid sister in some way, where like stylish, beautiful.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit of an edge to her.
I really like, and I think this sort of like commonality between all of these. The one that I was going to mention is Stephen Colbert, just because for a couple of reasons. One being that like very empathetic person, but also being so like self-assured in his persona, either as like a regular host or back when he was playing the character Stephen Colbert.
Right.
That like I think it's really just confidence that we're responding to, right? Like a host has to be the most confident person on stage or in the room or whatever. And it'll be interesting to see if our Nintendo hosts follow this rule at all.
Follow these rules at all.
Because they may not. We may have some hosts who are I guess just less confident. So we have, as always, brought 3 to 5 examples of our favorite Nintendo hosts. Mark, would you like to go first?
Sure, yeah. I'll go
kick us off?
first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my first host, and some of these, I brought extras, because some of these, I'm not sure if they're going to pass the smell test as to, like, what is a host
Well, do we
within these games.
Do we need to define host?
Or
Or is that something we're going to discover together as we do this?
I think it might be something that we discover together.
All right, I'm fine with that.
Okay, my first one is Ring from Ring Fit Adventure.
I see. Yes.
And so this is where it's like, what is the difference between like a guide
Right.
and a host?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I do? So, okay. I think this counts. And I largely think it counts because I'm sure if you're going to like a fitness class, that person is your instructor, not the host, right?
Right.
But they're effectively hosting
The class?
an exercise party. Right?
They're commanding everyone's attention for the entire time they're up there.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is just based on their confidence that they know what they're doing, right? And your confidence in them. Yeah, I buy that. I buy the Ring as a host.
Okay, phew. All right, then we're off on an okay foot.
Yes.
The thing I like about Ring is that Ring has a lot of like personality for just being a Ring. Touchy whenever people comment about their hair. Has
About
a fear
the Ring's hair?
Okay. Has a fear of ghosts. We know that it once loved an exercise instructor.
Okay. Do we know anything about that exercise instructor? And was it the Wii Fit trainer?
We don't know if it was
Okay.
the Wii Fit trainer. I don't think we know anything about it, but we do know that Drago knows that Ring used to have a crush.
Whoa.
Because in like one of the battles, Drago's kind of giving Ring crap for this failed love affair.
Drago, of course, being the main antagonist of Ring Fit Adventure.
Yep, the hottie with the body.
Yeah, that's right. I was just playing Ring Fit Adventure this morning and battled Drago. And it's distracting to fight him. But no, I like that. And again, like the Ring acting as host, he's got that attitude, right? Like, and like that confidence.
Well, his whole job, like we were talking about with the real life exercise instructor, is to motivate you and keep you going, right? And so he's very like flattering. The Ring is always telling you how like nice your sweat looks.
Yeah.
It's making you like so.
Your sweat is so shiny and beautiful.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's like straight Richard Simmons right there, right?
I've not played this game, so I'm learning so much about this. This is
okay.
This is nothing I expected that was actually in this game.
Oh,
This is,
yeah, okay.
You're really opening my eyes to.
So you like boot up the game and you play like the campaign mode, and Ring like introduces itself as Ring can be canonically, at least in English, like male or female. You can choose whatever voice actor you want. And they're like, "Hey, I'm Ring," and they're the personification of the like exercise equipment that you're holding that came with the game, and is kind of like guiding you through the world.
Yeah, well, and I mean, especially because like the game presents itself as an RPG, but like is story light, so it kind of just has to like hang its hat on like the goofiness of like the scenarios and the characters, and Ring is sort of your perspective character for all of that, because your player character has no personality, and like does nothing. So yeah, I guess it makes sense that it would need this host character, which I'm now insisting is a host, to have like the stronger personality. Very good, great first entry. Drew, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm going to say this assignment was difficult because this is something that the internet helped Zero with if I was having trouble thinking of candidates. Like, there is not a category for this on any wiki that exists.
Right.
So this is, like, you guys are making, like, the first, like, list of this that will ever exist online is existing on your podcast.
We are doing this.
All
of us together.
We'll see how mine do.
You can't back down from the responsibility here.
So I'm going to open up with a very obvious one. And he fits the criteria, but it's Swanky Kong.
Yeah, perfect.
So he literally he exists for no other reason than to host anything.
I love this.
I love it too.
That's his one job. His job is host, and he is no one's favorite Kong. However,
no.
Where did we rank Swanky Kong when we ranked the Kongs?
I can't remember. It's
pretty
been
low.
so
I think
bottom. It has to be bottom. You can't like anyone less than.
Well, they're
Swanky.
like evil Kongs too. So,
Manky Kong.
Yeah.
He's
got to be below.
And I think, Candy, I don't think fared that well.
I don't remember, and our recent conversation in the Discord about Candy Kong has only freaked me out further. So
right.
I don't know what to do there.
But at least she has like alarmingly sexy as a character trait. He is just game show. There's nothing else to him.
Right.
And he's not been in any games aside from Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3 and the Game Boy Advance remakes. Eventually, they're just like, we're not gonna really do him. He was in the movie though.
Oh, is he in the movie?
In like the crowd scene, right?
He might be in the crowd scene. So allegedly, he's also the one that gets in the Take on Me part.
Yeah.
He is the.
Is that when they're racing?
No,
or
so it's when they're getting the tour of Donkey Kong Country.
It's remember that blonde ape who is like the bouncer at the gate, and he takes them up to I keep wanting to call him King Kong. Yes.
Yeah.
Cranky Kong.
Yes.
That's when Take on Me happens.
Yeah. So he's a different ape who crashes on a banana peel during that scene. That allegedly is Swanky Kong. I did not know this until doing research for this. But like even then, he's like given a throwaway role. So it's like no one really cares about him. But it is his job.
Is he wearing because it's Swanky Kong? He wears like a blue jacket, right?
He has like a shiny blazer, and then he gets a costume change at some point. But I don't remember.
In two it's like the big oversized blue blazer, and then in 3 it's like a silver suit. So it's flashy all the time.
Do we think there's a host that he is supposed to look like?
I don't.
He just looks like Donkey Kong in a blazer.
He does.
That's a good point. Does he have like whiter teeth than the rest of the Kongs?
He has gold. He has a couple of gold teeth. And so I think that's like his
that's
renders.
What I'm seeing in my
his
memory.
renders a lot of time have like sparkle for that reason.
Yeah. That makes sense. Why? I mean, I guess it's just that we haven't seen like a deep exploration of the Kong family characters in a while.
Right.
But if they ever go back to it, like we got to see more about this guy, right? Why isn't he hosting a minigame collection of some kind?
He might be the Stanley the Bugman of the Donkey Kong family.
How dare you?
I mean, yes.
Swanky Kong, great pick. For my first host, I'm picking one of my favorite hobby horses, the Arcade Bunny from Nintendo Badge Arcade. A pink rabbit who will let you play claw machine games on your 3DS, except not anymore because the game was like wholly online and just physically impossible to play it in any form right now. But here's another character who's got like, he's got that confidence, and will like move into, he's almost got that like Happy Mask salesman thing of like the emotions turning on a dime, and he'll suddenly be like mad or trying to bully you or something. But mostly, I just want to see this pink rabbit and more stuff.
I'm positive Nintendo will bring him back.
You're positive?
I am, because they have such a love of their weirdos, and I feel like they know that it is not just this podcast. There's a fandom of him beyond this podcast, and he's a very appealing design. I think he will come back in some form.
I liked the way he would. Did either of you play Badge Arcade at all?
I've just seen videos of it.
There are times when he's talking to you, and he talks too much, right? Like, it is, I guess, to the sports thing that we were talking about. Like, he has the ability to speak even when he should probably be quiet. But like, as he's speaking, he will physically change. So he'll become like a big, like muscular, like Arnold Schwarzenegger looking rabbit. He'll turn into like a actual like photograph of a rabbit and be talking to you that way. So there's something very like Looney Tunesy about him, where like even his like the medium that he's being presented in changes as you're talking to him. I just think that's fun.
That is fun. Yeah, I never played Nintendo Badge Arcade, but like Drew was saying, this rabbit has a reputation. Mm-hmm. So I do hope that someday it comes back.
And I hope they name him, because Arcade Bunny is like, it's good. It says what you have, what you get in the tin, right? Like it's right there. I wish he had a name. He does have a name tag on his blazer that says ABCDE. So it feels like that's got to just be placeholder text.
Right? Yeah.
I don't think that's his name.
I like that. I like that a lot. I hope it is his name, and I hope there's like a real pronunciation for it. Yeah. I'm sorry. Before I go into my next one,
yes,
I just wanted to go back. Drew, you said that you weren't super familiar with Ring Fit Adventure. So when we were talking about Drago as like the hottie with the body, do you know what that means?
Don't know it. Was thinking that's something I'm gonna have to look up on my phone when I walk home.
Yep. It absolutely is.
The main antagonist of the game is a ripped, like, purple dragon wearing a singlet.
Yeah.
I'm surprised this hasn't crossed my desk until now. Usually this is the kind of thing I find out about on Tumblr. But yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to go back and make sure
that's
you
good. I'm glad
you
we
have that
underlined
important
that.
information.
How do you spell that? DRAGO?
No, EAUX.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
That's a fancy way to spell
Drago.
that. Drago. Okay.
So yeah, just some information.
You and I were both very
great
excited about that
information.
X.
All right, so my next pick?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my second pick is from a Nintendo DS game, and it's Dr. Kawashima from Brain Age, Train Your Brain in Minutes a Day. So Dr. Kawashima is truly the host of this game. He's like this polygon rendered in this like almost like Max Headroom type of way.
Yeah.
Or like is something
like a
out
Star
of
Fox ball.
Yeah, he looks like Andros.
Yes.
Yeah. It looks like Andros, but a real Japanese man that had this idea that if you exercised your brain every day, you could train it just like you could a muscle, and so that's what this Nintendo DS game was based on. I feel like we've talked about it fairly recently on the show.
Yeah.
But basically the way it worked is you held your Nintendo DS like a book, and when you first booted up the game, this Andros-esque face of Dr. Kawashima would introduce this idea of exercising your brain every day, and that your ideal, like, I feel like the peak brain age was 20.
Yeah.
But he expressed how challenging it would be to get to that point. But he encouraged you to exercise your brain every day, and so there was a series of like Sudoku or math puzzles, or I'm trying to think of like what the other ones were.
I mean, sometimes it would like say there were things where like it would be like, what's the color of this word? And then a word would appear, and the word would be blue, but the text would be in red.
Oh yeah.
And you would have to speak red into the microphone.
Yes, that's right. But Dr. Kawashima was your host through the whole thing. He guided you through the entire process, congratulated you for your progress, would encourage you when you maybe had a rough brain age training day. I bet not all of my hosts are like these sort of like
Our teachers.
our teachers, yeah, or instructors of some kind. I promise.
No, but I think Dr. Kawashima is a good one. I like that it is a real human being who also exists in the real world. I have one of those on my list as well. But I think that's a good one. Nintendo had to stop like saying that it was like actually beneficial to your brain health, right?
That's like the speculation as to
Yeah.
why we don't get brain training games anymore, and instead we get like Big Brain Academy. Even when they get released in Japan and Europe, is that Nintendo of America is trying to avoid any lawsuits because they're making claims about like brain health
that
or
are
something like that.
unsubstantiated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So if Dr. Kawashima is a real person, does that mean that he's the only real person who appears in Smash Brothers?
Whoa.
Oh wow!
Because he's an assist trophy in Smash Brothers,
Yeah,
and
he
he
sure
kills you with
is.
numbers. And I just think like he could be playing that and like summon himself and be like, "That's me. I'm killing everyone with numbers.
Yeah.
That's me."
I mean, as long as we don't count the Mii fighters
Right.
as because you can make a Mii of yourself and
You
then
could
put
do
it in the
that,
game.
yes.
But
Right.
But let's throw the Mii fighters out because who cares, right? They don't count.
Well, and it'll never be the Mii fighter. Will I guess? Yeah. Fair.
So one more question about Brain Age, which I've not played, but I'm familiar with in general. The ideal Brain Age is 20.
I think that's what it said. It's been a
It's
real-
weird.
It's
I
been
feel
a
like
really long time since
I
I
feel like
played
it might be 18.
I was really dumb when I was 18 to
Oh,
20.
I
I
was-
like,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
really, like, terrible brain. Like, I don't want to go back there.
No, I mean the whole thing is based on pseudoscience, right? But like, yeah, I remember it being very strange because I was probably playing it when I was like 22, 23, something like that.
You're like, I'm great.
Yeah, I'm doing great. But like, would play the game and be like, "Ooh, sorry, your brain is 55." And be like, oh God! But then I remember achieving scores below my actual age, and was like, "Okay, well, I don't." It's weird to measure a brain's effectiveness by giving it an age. Mark, you're just watching videos of
Yeah,
Dr.
I'm sorry.
Kawashima
I'm
right
watching. I'm watching the long play of it to see if I can get to the point where he's like. But I'm not gonna get there
now.
yet.
Oh yeah, all right. Dr. Kawashima, a great entry in.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Oh yeah. It said something about 20.
Yeah. It said, and maybe maybe it knows your birth date. I don't know, but it's like your brain will not be
Yeah.
as strong as one with the ideal brain age of 20. So there they go.
Huh.
But maybe brain age
Is
is
not-
a measure that is different from like physical age.
Oh, that's
okay,
interesting.
That
Yeah.
makes more sense. Okay, yeah.
Probably shouldn't call it age then.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why they don't release these games in the
It's a
U.S.
great
anymore.
point. Drew, who you got for your next host?
Kind of along similar lines. It's a pick that I'm not sure. I don't know if I've heard you guys talk about this game, but I'm sure you know it. Monita from Nintendo Land
Yes. This is like the computer, right? That like is the host.
is the host. Is the kind of a tutorial, but has more personality than just a tutorial would have. And it's a really weird character where it's like a monitor with a hand. And again, like we were talking about earlier with a Clue Land character, they gendered her. And they're like, she's a girl. But there's nothing about her that reads necessarily as feminine, except she has like a feminine robot voice. And they made her just weird enough that she has more personality than a typical tutorial robot would have.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I feel like this character is a character that might have had a presence with Nintendo beyond this one game, but I don't think anyone liked Nintendo Land. And Monita has never shown up again, I don't think.
Right. Well, that's fascinating. I feel like we can put her sort of in the same category as Mary O, the help assistant, whatever in Super Mario Maker.
Who they also got rid of.
Was she not in the second one?
There was a new girl. There was they brought back the pigeon and Undo Dog, and they brought a new girl. Mary O, I guess she died. I don't know.
I don't like that at all. I mean, I love look. The more times we can bring back the Undo Dog, the better. I love that Undo
Because
Dog.
from Mario Paint,
He's
right?
from Mario
Yeah,
Paint,
okay,
yeah.
Yeah, alive and well. Probably gonna be playable in Mario Kart one day. I
love it.
I swear to God.
I love it. Undo Dog for Smash. Yeah. All you can do is take back the last action. That's great. So I don't know much about her personality. I've only played Nintendo Land like at other people's homes. I've never owned a copy before. Is there like an element of her personality that we can pin down?
So I tried to reach back in my head and remember playing this game. I remember liking her a lot. She's just a little creepy, and
Yeah.
they gave her like the spark. It's like I think she's like is what brings Nintendo Land into Weird Nintendo just enough.
Yeah.
Where she is yearning to be more than what she is, but she's essentially just the menu screen at this like very strange Nintendo themed amusement park where the rides are just okay. And she's trapped there.
That is funny. I love a robot that yearns to be more than what it is.
Yeah.
I think that's really good.
She should have gone on to become Rob's girlfriend. It did not happen, and I feel very bad for her.
It could still happen.
It could still happen.
I think Badge Bunny has a better chance than
I think you're probably
Monita,
right, but
you know.
One thing I'd like, because you mentioned this about Monita, but it's a very Nintendo, because we think of Nintendo as a very like bright and happy, you know, they literally say that their goal is to bring smiles to people's faces, right? But a very Nintendo thing is to give their characters that little bit of like weirdness.
Mhm.
Like we talked about this when we did our like a few years ago, we determined the best Zelda NPC, and so many of those NPCs are that same sort of thing where they're almost like they have like a facade of friendliness and happiness, but there's like something cracked
right.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that stuff. All right, my next pull for host is going to be our second real-life human being who also appears in a Nintendo game. It is Shinya Arino, as he appears in Super Mario Maker as one of the costume Mario power-ups. So Shinya Arino is the host of Game Center CX in Japan. So he's like a show host, and the show is... it's like a Let's Play series that also has like all these other, you know, it's the kind of thing that like G4 would try to do, or like anytime they try to bring video games to TV, and it's just because like they had it figured out in Japan at the very least, and this one guy is the only human being, real life human being who got a costume in Super Mario Maker in the Costume Mario power-up. Are you familiar with the costume Mario power-ups in general?
I am. I don't remember. This is the one I don't remember, though.
Yeah, so I mean, there were like 153 of them total.
Yeah.
A lot of them based on Amiibo, and some just like based on like special event stuff that they did. They did like a Mario Kun one, who was like based on the manga Mario, and then this one that just looks like a Japanese man wearing a suit, a little 8-bit version of him.
I love this. I also love that it's like a reversal of what we've been talking about so far. So it's not like a host of a video game, it's a host of a real life thing.
Right.
In a video game.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's probably not a very good host of a video game, but he's been host of it. The show's been running
Yeah.
for 20 years.
Really?
Yeah, since 2003. One season of it was like broadcast on Kotaku, or at least like whatever they had like the rights to. They had it for like a year. And then released a DVD of it, and like that's the only bit of it that's available in the States, but it's no longer actually available to stream on Kotaku. But yeah, I went down a little rabbit hole and was like, what is this? Who is this? And like the most popular segment on the show is where he just gets a retro challenge, where his producers give him a retro game to play and like reach the end of in one day, and then they like cut together the footage of him doing that.
Oh, funny.
Yep. So Shinya Arino.
I'm jealous of anyone that can play as themselves in a video game. So the
Yeah.
fact that he could do that
Yeah.
in Mario Maker is kind of awesome.
So yeah, we're making now a little list of like Dr. Kawashima's the only person who can play as him or see himself in Super Smash Brothers, and Shinya Arino is the only person who can play as himself in Super Mario Maker.
Man, what an honor.
So weird they didn't bring these things back for Mario Maker 2.
Yeah.
Don't really know why. They're just not present.
Yeah.
Mark?
All right, here's another one that we'll see how far I can get with this.
Are any of these not stretches, Mark?
Okay.
Yeah.
My next pick is Master Hand from Super Smash Brothers.
Okay.
And here is my reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning of the first Smash Brothers game,
Yeah.
Master Hand is seen like picking up the dolls, putting them on the desk, and then the desk transforms into the battlefield, right? Master Hand is like the god of Super Smash Brothers, the ultimate host,
Sure.
if you will.
Sure, God is the ultimate host. I think we can agree on that.
And so that's why he's on this list.
Okay. All right. This is interesting because this is a host without a voice.
That we
He has-
receive in the game.
He has a voice, though, doesn't he?
Well, so this is a great question. Is he the one that's going like, Samus? Is that Master Hand?
That does sound like him, right?
I
Wait,
mean,
I never thought. I'm just thinking, because like when you kill him, you hear this like death groan, but it sounds like the same voice as who announces everything.
Well, and
It makes sense.
it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Because Master Hand is the one who's picking up these toys
Uh-huh.
and like playing with them, like making them battle each other.
Yeah.
And so he would be the one who's like, "Oh, Master Hand, who's playing now? Why, it's Samus.
Sure.
Pikachu."
Whoa.
that was spooky.
How do you explain Crazy Hand then?
His friend.
The devil?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, in
Right.
the theology of Super
Right.
Smash Brothers, that is of course true.
He was cast out of Smash Heaven.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Can I point out as a left-handed person how offensive it is that there's like Master Hand and Crazy Hand is the binary we're given in these games? It's really, really not great.
It's the name of the character. I don't know what to tell you, man.
It's whatever.
Yeah, okay. I think we can buy
Yeah,
Crazy
no,
Master Hand,
Master Hand.
not Crazy Hand.
No.
Right.
Sorry, Drew.
Yeah,
Master Hand is
Drew, I'm so sorry.
is the host of the Super Smash Brothers
Yeah.
series.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I buy that. Drew.
Okay, so this one is more literal, and it is one that I think no one else in the world cares about. But Ken from WarioWare is a dog anchorman, TV reporter, and VJ who appears in several games.
Yes.
He's like the Ryan Seacrest of WarioWare.
Yeah.
He's always working.
I brought pictures of him because I'm like, I don't think they're necessarily going to readily who I'm talking about. But he is in the world of WarioWare. There's this like preponderance of anthropomorphic dogs that
Yes.
just have jobs out in Diamond City doing whatever. And one of them happens to be this guy named Ken, who's just a brown dog. And he does a lot of things on the show. He hosts like there's one of the Mona like vignettes. She's like trying to get the top spot on like a TRL style MTV countdown.
Yes.
And he's like a co-host with a different dog named Joe. He's a different brown dog, and like
but Joe didn't make the list.
Joe not on the list.
Not as
No.
good.
no. This is the guy. Hardworking dog. I gotta say, in later games, they have different dog reporters that are not him, and they're like, oh, he's gone. He's not here anymore. So there's like different dogs named like Ben, and I was like,
What happened to Ken?
we don't know, but like they swapped him out. But literally, his job is to host, a very
Yeah.
literal interpretation of host. And this is just a facet of the WarioWare games that is invisible to most people. But I really like dogs, and I like that there's just like a ton of dogs in this game. There's not like cats.
Well, there are cats, but they're not anthropomorphic.
Right.
So Spitz or Dribble, I can't remember which one is. There's him.
Oh, yeah,
the two
that's right,
cabbies.
right, right.
Yeah.
But like he's the only one. So he's like a minority in this town that's like mostly human dog.
Yeah.
It's very creepy.
Yeah, well, because there are the regular cats that follow Jimmy P around.
Yeah, like the dancing cats.
in the rain.
Right.
The disco dancing cats.
Right.
But yeah, that is, yeah, you're right. It is. It's probably Spitz, right? That's got to be the cat. If we had to guess,
What's your thinking? What's your thinking
a
there?
Dribble seems like a dog.
Oh, I see.
Okay,
like
yeah.
drool.
Yeah.
Dribble's
okay.
yeah.
No, that makes sense. I buy
Cats
that.
drool,
Yeah,
dogs
yeah, okay.
drool, right? I think we're right.
Yeah.
I'm applying homeward
Yeah.
bound logic to this.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I was looking through WarioWare to find one, and that very story with Mona, like doing this American Idol style thing. I was like, can we like stretch that to be like she's an entertainer and therefore a host? But Ken is a much better pull. Mark has now looked up Dribble and Spitz.
And
Can you?
Homeward bound logic once again.
Perfect.
Pull this through.
What a great pull. I love that. For my third pick, I'm doing a trio of characters that act as hosts to the vacationers on the Happy Home Paradise within Animal Crossing New Horizons. Wardell, Nico, and Lottie. they Nico is the little monkey guy who will take you around, and he does like most of the work with the player character to design the homes of where the various animals are vacationing. And then Wardell is a manatee who speaks so slowly, like. You know how in Animal Crossing, like you can hear what they're saying as like the text goes across the screen. His you can almost understand. It's happening so slow, and he's great. I love him. He's
He's a monkey, right?
No. Nico's the monkey.
Oh, Nico's the monkey.
Wardell's a manatee.
Oh, thank goodness. I was worried that. Well, not really worried. It actually got me excited for a second. That because you were saying Wardell is the one that we can almost understand.
Yes.
Yeah. And if it was a monkey, then it would have been like
you'd be like that much
a
closer
Planet
to
of the
you.
Apes.
Oh, I see.
Situation. But I understand now.
And then there's Lottie, who's an otter, and a pink otter who wants to sell you a timeshare on an archipelago. I don't think there's a better character in fiction. They're just your constant companions as you are, trying to design homes for the villagers of Animal Crossing.
Does Lottie exist in the other games? And also, is she one of the alternate costumes in Mario Maker?
Ooh, she probably is.
Okay.
Because she definitely is actually. Because like Kix and a couple of other that have amiibo, and there is an amiibo for Lottie.
Why does Lottie have an amiibo? Because she is not. Is she in the regular console games?
She's in. I believe that she's in New Leaf.
Okay.
But she's not in vanilla New Horizons until Happy Home Paradise comes along. Mark again saving us, looking up Lottie.
Well, you're right. She first appeared in Happy Home Designer.
Oh, okay. All right.
But is also in New Leaf.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Great. So she's a newer entrant, but yeah, she had an amiibo when there was that like line of Animal Crossing amiibos to go with Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, that like really janky board game that was like Mario Party but without mini games.
Right.
What's the point?
We could play it after this if you want. I've got a copy and all the amiibo. But yeah, Lottie's she's an icon. And then there's a little monkey and a giant manatee.
Who I don't think I've ever seen before because I've never played this game. And I'm like, well, I want to see what a manatee looks like.
Yeah, they're all
cute. Oh,
cute.
he's so big.
Yeah.
They're all adorable.
Why are they not in, like, those are great designs. They should be in, like, the games that I played on consoles.
I believe that they are, that Wardell and Nico are new additions to Happy Home Paradise.
Okay.
I don't think they've ever been in the series before. I have to imagine they'll be back in every game from here on out because they're incredible.
They're great. So I just learned about these characters really. So I don't know. Are they a throuple?
Ooh, are they a throuple? I don't. Maybe. I feel like Nico is ace, and Wardell's gay. It's got to be. And then Lottie probably also gay. So maybe not a throuple, but
They're just roommates. Okay.
yeah,
I don't know why I got that vibe. I just wanted to know.
no, it's good. It's good that we explore anytime we have a trio of characters. Are they a throuple? It's good.
Are the Splatoon hosts a throuple? Is Deep Cut a throuple?
Ooh, Mark, what's your thought on that?
I think we're back where we were with Happy Home Paradise. Ace, gay, gay.
I guess okay.
Yeah, okay. Classic dynamic. Ace, gay, gay. Mark, we're on 4th round picks at this point.
Oh wow. Okay. So I actually mentioned it earlier. This is we had done an episode a few years ago about the where we definitively determined the best NPC from the entire Legend of Zelda series.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a character who made it far, but did not end up winning out, and that is Salvatore from Legend of Zelda Wind Waker.
Yes.
And this is a character that hosts the sinking ships and barrel shoot minigames in Wind Waker. Sinking ships is just battleship.
Mm-hmm.
And is also in Phantom Hourglass. But Salvatore, this is from his figurine description, quote, "Long ago, Salvatore hoped to be a famous painter, but that dream didn't last long. He eventually returned to his hometown and came up with his current business plan. It's been a huge success, allowing him to purchase his own island, where he has opened up a second store in what he hopes will become a huge chain. He's now busy trying to think up that one idea that will spark his next big endeavor. What I like about Salvatore a lot is that he is, like a failed artist.
Yeah, great.
But
Can relate.
Relatable,
when you like go to play his mini games in Wind Waker, he could not be less interested in helping you. Like, he's like really just kind of like, like lethargic, not that interested. But when you say you're going to play, he's a true artist. He's a true businessman. He turns it on. He turns on the charm, and he does these little performances where he's holding up like paintings with the center portion cut out that it becomes his face. And so he's telling you little stories. He's doing accents. He's like a real character. And then when you're playing,
like Mark Wiener.
Then when you're
On
playing
Wienerville. Remember Wienerville?
on Nickelodeon?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then when you're playing sinking ships, he's as you're like making moves, he's making the like splash, boom sounds. I love Salvatore.
Yeah,
he's like
Salvatore's a good pull.
Like he's the sneaky host. You wouldn't think that he's very good at it because you approach him and he doesn't seem very approachable. But then once you decide to play, he's all in. He turns on that performer charm.
Yeah, it's a like the show must go on kind of thing. Where like he may be clinically depressed and have no desire to like get up and perform.
Yeah,
but you're there and you're paying him rupees, so like he's gonna give you a show.
Yep, and he does.
I like that. Why didn't Salvatore win?
Because the Happy Mask Salesman.
Oh, that's right.
That's a really good win. That makes sense. Yeah.
Drew.
Okay, so this is a newer pick, and I think it works based on the rather wide interpretation of host that we've given so far.
Very good.
I don't know what you mean.
Chef Toad.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I love this. So, yes, go. Explain Chef Toad.
I didn't know he was a character until I went, and when I saw, I was like, who is this?
Went to Super Nintendo World.
Super Nintendo World. I saw him as a toy first.
Yes.
And it was like, oh, all these characters I know, and like, this guy, I've never seen this before. I'm certain this is not a character that exists. Then we went to the Toadstool Cafe, and I was like, oh, I am feeling so charmed by this entire thing. And this character who I initially hated, because he seemed like he was shoehorned in out of nowhere,
yes,
I have now come to love in a very dear way because he's the face of that entire experience. And honestly, I enjoyed Super Nintendo World a lot. That was my favorite part of it. Like
was
that
going to the cafe?
Just the experience of not the food, but like the experience of everything else that was not
Yeah.
related specifically to eating food in the cafe was amazing. And he draws it together. I understand why they did it. It makes sense. It's what that attraction needed.
Yeah, that's perfect. Chef Toad is like, that's the kind of, when we do exercises like this, if we can pull something like Chef Toad, he's not from a game.
Right.
Like, this is perfect. I love this pick.
Chef Toad charmed me as well. That was the one piece of merchandise that I got, because I was really disappointed with the merchandise of Super Nintendo World.
Wasn't that great?
But I got a Chef Toad plush that's in my house.
And he is, like you said, a constant presence in the cafe, which has like a bunch of just like fun stuff happening on like the video walls. You can see what's happening like outside. Bowser attacks every like 17 minutes or something.
Those poor people.
Look, they deal though. They're running away from giant bullet bills or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's also the one side where you can see into the kitchen where the toads are, and we were there for a long time.
We were there for a long time.
We had to wait for clean forks. But it seemed like those videos, like the loop on those inside the kitchen videos, were so long. I feel like we didn't see repeats of stuff, and we were there for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's such a fun one.
So you get to see a lot of Chef Toad. Great pick, Drew. I'm so jealous. That's such a good. I love that. All right, for my fourth pick, I'm going with Rosalina because I view her as the host of Rosalina's Storytime in Super Mario Galaxy.
That's a good pick.
Thank you. And the Rosalina storybook thing is such a weird slice of that game because it's like wholly optional. If you don't go into Rosalina's library, where she lives with the Crypt Keeper, you don't.
And the host of.
And the host of the Dark Pictures Anthology, who has a name that's like the Archivist. I don't know.
ABCDE?
It might be ABCDE. Rosalina will read to you from this like chapter book that has this incredibly charming like watercolor art style, and it's just the story of how she left Earth somehow and wound up among the stars and like found them to be living creatures that she could take care of and like guide them through their life cycle as they die and become new stars and all this kind of stuff. And it's just a wholly charming, chill part of a game that is always charming, but usually not very chill.
And a little sad.
A little
Yeah,
sad,
little
yeah.
sad.
Yeah.
Little hint of sadness.
Yeah, I think that's that melancholy Nintendo thing that they sneak in there when you're like, this is cute, and then you're like, oh, my heart. How'd you do that, Nintendo?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's something about it being like whole, like you said, like completely optional. Like you can go through that game like without engaging with it at all. That is like that makes it like for whatever reason feel extra special.
Yeah. That it can be missed.
I told someone about that on a date once, and he did not believe me because he had not experienced it. He just like played through the game, and he's like, "No, that must be like 2 or something." I was like, "No, it's in the first one." Like it's like
gotta go to the
it's just
library.
completely skippable. And I hope he went home and watched it on YouTube or something. But yeah, like
Well, and you'll never know because you obviously never talked to
no,
him.
I did not.
Yeah.
Not for that reason. But yeah.
All right, Mark, we're on to final host picks
Are
already.
we okay? I have a. Can I? Before
We can
I-
do honorable mentions
Can I?
afterwards.
Can I
if
do
we
a?
want.
Oh, afterwards. Okay. All right.
Well, because
yeah.
we may pick.
Oh yeah. No, that's fair.
Right,
That's
okay,
fair.
yeah,
That's
that's
fair.
fair.
Okay.
It does feel like there's one character that we are all avoiding, but I don't know if that's true.
Oh.
I'll bring him up at the end.
Okay,
and
great.
See if we are in fact actively avoiding him.
Okay, so my last one is a sentimental pick, and it doesn't come from a game. It's Satoru Iwata, Shigeru Miyamoto, and Reggie Fils-Aimé hosting Nintendo Directs.
Yeah.
So that that like 2010 or 11 or 12, whenever they started doing Directs, and up until 2016 or 17 when Satoru Iwata died.
Was that 16 or I was in my Franklin apartment, so it was before we moved here. I think we moved here in 2016.
Maybe it was 14. Was it 20? I don't know.
Whenever it was.
But that like era of Nintendo Directs, I think the Nintendo Directs now are fun. I think the hosts are still really good. But there's just something that was really special about that era of Nintendo Directs.
Yeah.
Because you could tell that those three people like genuinely really liked each other.
Yeah.
And that chemistry and like the fun that they would have in those. Nintendo, for good reason, like doesn't try to fake it anymore. You know what I mean? Like they have changed the format of Nintendo Directs because the chemistry that those three had, it just made them a lot of fun. Like when they were announcing Star Fox Zero and they created puppet versions with the Jim Henson Puppet Workshop and it's like, well, why did they do that other than they just wanted to, and it seemed like a lot of fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that was just a really special era of Nintendo Directs.
Is that? I mean, obviously, Miyamoto and Reggie were like big parts of like being those recognizable like icons of that. But for whatever reason, like Iwata to me is like he's the one that holds that together. I just think about like because they've obviously had other like developer personalities that Nintendo has been happy to put kind of like front and center. Depending on like Koizumi when like Mario stuff is around,
Right.
or Aonuma when Zelda is what's happening. But like I don't know if Iwata was just like good enough at representing all of Nintendo as a brand to just like unify that. No, that was a special dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I looked it up. It was 2015.
Okay.
Really, it's weird that it's that late. I would have guessed it was much earlier than that. Because it feels like we got so many more of them than we would have given that date span,
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Well, a somber pick for the last one, Mark. Not the one I was saying that I was avoiding. Drew, for your final pick.
Yeah, that was a really good pick. It's going to make my final pick look like a real piece of crap. But this is one that I'm going to pick to diss another one. But I know who you're talking about. I'm not going to pick that one.
Great.
That can be yours. that can be yours to pick because
Honorable mention only, I think.
if it's who I'm thinking about, I only know about that particular host through your podcast. In Paper Mario, the first Paper Mario, there is a character named Chuck Quizmo who is a
Oh yes.
gross-looking worm
Yes.
wearing a top hat.
He's like a Willy Wonka-esque
Yeah.
worm. Yeah.
And he's not from anything. He's an original creation. So you're just like, you just made up a worm? The worm is hosting a game show. He has an assistant female toad whose name is Vanna T, which is
Pretty
a nice
good.
touch.
That's pretty good.
That's actually great.
That's a nice,
That's wonderful.
Someone in like I know this is not a thing, but someone in like the Nintendo writers room was like, "Guys, I got it," and they're like, "Yeah, we have to do that." And I just like this. It's a recurring segment. You can meet him in different locations, and he will quiz you about the game, and you ask questions. And I like that exists. He is a much better looking version of a character who is the actual host of Mario Party 8, whose name is MC Ballyhoo, who looks like garbage. He looks like rancid garbage. He's actually a trophy in Smash Brothers, and like everything about him is like, this is the least appealing Nintendo character I think I've ever seen.
Oh, you're right. I've never seen MC Ballyhoo before,
Oh,
but it is
I
really
don't
bad.
care for it.
He looks so annoying. And by contrast, this like dumb worm they put in Paper Mario, I'm like, I guess he's better. So I'm gonna go with Chuck Quizmo because he's not MC Ballyhoo,
No,
who is
Chuck
a trophy.
Quizmo is-
He's a trophy. They gave him a trophy in one of the Smash Brothers games. I just find that disrespectful. But there's
We gotta resurface the Paper Mario characters as trophies and stuff, right?
yeah, this as something. I mean, I think they show up as like stickers and spirits, but like
Not
I'm-
enough.
I don't buy a lot of amiibo, but I would buy a Chuck Quizmo amiibo.
he's so people be
Yeah.
like, what is it from? And you're like, a Mario game. You're like, really? Really? They let that character exist? Huh. I mean, we'll see what happens with the new Super Mario RPG remake, but I'm hoping that I think it'll do very well and people will be very enthusiastic about it. And maybe one day we'll get to see a reinterpretation of Paper Mario. So we might get these characters again one day because that enthusiasm exists for those characters too.
Absolutely. I mean, the Paper Mario fan base is, especially for those first two games.
Yeah.
like, they're intense.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's bring them back. For my final pick, I'm gonna save the cursed host for honorable mentions. I'm gonna go with Gruntilda, aka Grunty, from Banjo-Kazooie, because this is the villain of Banjo-Kazooie, and she spends most of the game taunting you from a distance, right? And you encounter her sister, who has a very like Glinda the Good Witch kind of vibe to her, and she tells you like awful things that her sister Grunty does. But as you approach the end of the game, as you approach the final boss, you are your final challenge before that is called Grunty's Furnace Fun, which is a game show / board game that you play as Banjo and Kazooie, where you roll a die and then you move a certain number of spaces on this game board, and whatever like the space says you have to do. Sometimes it's a combat challenge, sometimes it is a trivia question about Grunty from like the things that you've learned talking to her Good Witch style sister, and the whole thing is insufferably narrated by Grunty. Does not shut up throughout, is trash talking you like crazy, and so she's really annoying, but she doesn't stop talking for like an hour. So by the criteria we set forth earlier, a great host.
Makes the list.
Makes the list. Would we like to throw out some honorable mentions?
I have a few.
I gotta just say that Horse
Yeah.
from Everybody One Two
Horse.
Switch.
Uh-huh.
Just a regular human wearing that horse mask. You know the one.
So is it a pun on host and horse? Is that why? Because I don't understand why this character is associated with the game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Mark, you gotta.
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah.
It's not-
I think this was their attempt at a Chuck Quizmo, but not everything's a Chuck Quizmo. Sometimes you're an MC Ballyhoo.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Quizmo or Ballyhoo. That's what we should.
Yeah.
For all these honorable mentions, we have to decide if they're a Quizmo or a Ballyhoo.
Okay.
Other honorable mentions?
I have I don't really like these hosts, but it's such a weird part of the Nintendo Wii era for me. Do you remember that game Mad World from Platinum Games that
Sure.
was like black and white? It was ultra violent.
Has a dude with a chainsaw on the cover.
Yeah, because it's like that's who you play as, and the whole thing is kind of like a like you exist in the world and are just killing other people. It's like hyper violent.
Yeah.
But it's some sort of like game within the world that you're participating in, and the whole thing is hosted by these two talking heads that are voiced. Their names are Howard Buckshot Holmes and Crease Creasley. Crease Creeley. And Howard Buckshot
Creasley is a better name.
Yeah, that's a great
right.
name.
Howard Buckshot Holmes is voiced by Greg Proops from like Whose Line It Is Anyway.
Yeah.
And then Creeley is voiced by John DiMaggio.
Oh.
Whoa.
And so they're just doing like running commentary while you're like chainsawing people in half, and it's like super hyper violent in this black and white world. And they just give running commentary through the whole thing.
Greg Proops can't turn down a like host duo voicing a duo like that two-headed alien in Phantom Menace.
Is that him?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah. The Greg Proops is the one head, and then the other one is like speaking an alien language.
Yeah. Wow.
Go to Greg Proops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, those are ballyhoos for sure.
Yeah.
Any other honorable mentions?
So mine I think she's been released on a Nintendo system before, but I do like her, but she comes with a big asterisk, and it's Ooh La La from Space Channel 9, who's like, I think she's a reporter. I don't know what she's doing, but like she has a microphone and she's on camera. It's her show you're watching,
right.
And you're watching her dance the aliens to death, I guess. So I like her, and I wish she was more of a thing, but also we can't like her because of what she did to the singer from that band D-Light.
You have to fill me in.
Yeah.
I know.
So do you know that song "Groove Is in the Heart"?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the lead singer of that band, D-Light, is Miss Lady Cure. And she was approached by Sega, and they're like, "We want to use your likeness in a video game." And the amount they offered her was not very much, and she's like, "No." And then the game came out anyway, and she's like, "That's me.
Oh,
It looks just like me. It dances like me. It acts like me. It dresses like me. I'm suing you for using my image without my permission."
whoa.
She lost. And when you sue someone for a civil suit like that and you lose, you have to pay their attorney's fees. And Sega had $600,000 worth of attorney's fees, and it ruined her.
Right.
So she lost. She like had to start over with no money after Groove Is in the Heart already had its moment. And it is the fault of Ooh La La, because Ooh La La is her and still is in video games. And she's like, that is still me. And I can't sue them again because they won. Yeah. It cost her $600,000 to try to like get money from Sega. Yeah.
That is
So she's
terrible.
super cute, and I like when she's in Sega stuff still. And next time you hear "Groove Is in the Heart," be like, that poor lady.
That poor lady.
Yeah,
Still
well,
paying
really screwed
Sega.
over.
Any other honorable mentions?
No.
All right. Well, this is great. We came up with a great list. Maybe the only definitive list of Nintendo hosts there are. Let's close this out. Drew, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for being here.
We could not have done this without you.
You would have gotten fewer stories about you wouldn't know who MC Ballyhoo was, and
That's true.
that would be a major
I would be
loss.
poorer for it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for also inviting me to a recording that I could walk to from my house.
Is there a place that people can follow you on social media or something?
I'm still technically on Twitter at Drew G Mackie, but I'm also on Blue Sky and at Drew G Mackie, MACKIE, and yeah, that should do it.
Awesome. Thanks again. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Thank you to our 16-bit patrons, Connor McCabe and Patrice Millette. We appreciate you. Join our Discord, send us an email, and we will send you an invitation. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.